Pedwin, Big Mo, and Flint, shortly after arriving in Mason's Rest, wandering around a little bit, seeing some of the sights, passing through some of the markets, and just kind of getting a sense of what the city is like. You saw some of the destroyed remnants of the city along its coastline, noting that, despite the fact that it seems like it's been a while, there hasn't been a lot of repair work done. While you were wandering around, Holg burst out from a tavern with the people, and after reuniting with him,
Boop beep bop beep boop boop beep bop beep bop boop beepity bop bop boop ba doop bop bop. Well, you are for me. Or was he breaking up for
now.
you too? You sound good now, I think.
All right, what's the last thing I said?
Something about Holg.
Yes. So you encountered Holg, who was in the middle of a bar fight, and he led you to Boff, who was currently docked at the waterside in the strange fish-shaped ship/submersible that you've only recently been introduced to. And a little bit to the side of that is the Weaver that is also docked at this city. However, the reunion was very short-lived because upon casting, I think it was Locate Object, Pedwin deduced that Burnley, the man that you have been hunting since you arrived on the island, was in the city and not far away. And so the group of you took off running in the direction that you thought he was going to be in. You did have to you had to employ some creative tactics to enter that region of the city. For lack of a better term, disabling some of the guards so that they would not prevent you. However, they seem to have not been able to follow you because they did lose sight of you. Upon which you closed in on the location where you believed Burnley was, and essentially forced your way into this private residence. Whereupon you let nothing stand in your way, and you burnt and broke down the door that was closest to Burnley's location, at least as far as you could tell. Which brings us to.
I'm pretty sure we did find Burnley, right?
Well, we're getting there. So upon breaking into this room, you took a surveying of your surroundings. The construction of the house is mostly stone. There are windows onto the courtyard that you entered from. However, these are very thin, vertically oriented windows with many stone pillars in between. So it's more just like a series of glass slats that you can see through, but you would not be able to fit through. Even, potentially. Well, actually, I'm not even going to say that. Okay. So these vertical slats of glass. The three of you taking a look around, it's quite a nice room. There are some benches and seating areas. There's a large red carpet, table set with some small amounts of food and wine, bookcases, just kind of closets and other large pieces of furniture. And in all the ruckus of breaking into this room, the door on the opposite side of the room opened up, and three figures stepped out. One of them was the man you have been looking for. It was Navigator Burnley. He was first out and most certainly surprised to see two people who he recognizes from the ship, and then one who he has no clue who they are. And after him followed a very large, about 6 feet tall, quite burly, leather-armored individual. And shortly behind him, a smaller elven individual. The elf, who appears to be quite aged, has pale gold hair that comes down and is drawn backwards over his back. He's wearing green robes with a faint silver embroidery on them, and he has pale gray-blue eyes that are very piercing and very wizened. And the two of you don't have a huge amount of experience with elves, so gauging his age is a little bit difficult, but he does look like he has seen many seasons come and go.
He's 180.
And what else you notice is that Burnley currently does not have his axe.
What? We came all this way for that axe, and he doesn't even have it.
He does not currently have it on his person. Oh,
orb.
you
Right?
locate object to the axe, and the axe, as far as you knew, was in this building. All right, so we will take it from here. So the three of you have broken into this room, and these three individuals have entered from a room, or from a door on the opposite side of the room. As you look around, Burnley quickly makes a comment to the elven individual to his right, claiming you as interlopers and urging and uttering words of warning. What? Okay, I got it now. So he presses some words of warning to the elven individual to his right, cautioning you that these are that you were a disruptive influence and were not to be trusted. And from there, we will take off. So you guys happen to break into this room, so you kind of have the momentum here. So is there anything you would like, is there anything that you're going to do, or are you going to just wait for them to react?
We wait for them to react. What do you say, Joe?
Okay. The elven individual looks taken aback and mildly confused, and looks to the individual to his right, the much larger humanoid, who, upon a closer inspection, you can see he has dark hair and dark eyes and is armored. He's not making an attempt to have clothing over top of it to conceal it. He is visibly armored and has a large quiver on his back. With all the ruckus and the chaos, you can see that he has drawn a rapier in one hand.
Gonna rape us.
And you also note that his ears do have a distinctive pointy appearance to them, although not quite as pronounced as the elven individual in the middle of the room.
He's gonna rape us with his ears.
And the two of them... All right. So the two individuals look at share a very confused glance, and as Pedwin motions to reach into his gear, the elven individual says something in a language none of you have heard before, and the armored individual reaches into the quiver on his back and throws him a small, foot-long metal object.
Subway sandwich.
The elven individual catches this object and looks squarely at Pedwin.
Says $5.
So, Pedwin, you have
$5.
You've retrieved your bombs, your grenades. Okay, so just so I can get a sense of this, have you snuffed out your flame to do this, or do you have the grenades in one hand and the flame in the other? Okay, and you're currently threatening your own safety. So if you want to try and figure out what this object is, you're gonna have to give a perception check. We're taking the first number now. Yeah. Because it shows up properly with the dice. You might have to scroll back in the... yeah, you might have to scroll backwards in the... Okay. Okay. So, upon suddenly reaching into this bag, and no attempt to conceal it, because it's kind of difficult with only one arm. Oh, actually, you did your perception check, didn't you? Okay. So you see that the object is relatively thin, and it is a metal object that appears to be formed of lengths of chain that are forming one straight line that end in a small white sphere that seems to be bound by the same metal that forms the lengths of chain. He points it directly at Pedwin and utters, again, in a word in a language that you do not understand. Let's see, I need you to make a... Alright, just to make sure I'm using the right saving throw here. Yes, you must make a wisdom saving throw, please. So you reach into your bag and you begin to pull out these grenades, and you have the flame in one hand, and all of a sudden your muscles seize and you can't move.
Can he talk?
He, from what you can tell, or Big Mo, from what you can see, Pedwin has just stopped moving.
Did time stop?
Time did not stop, as near as you can tell.
I'll,
the elven
poke,
individual...
Can I poke Pedwin?
You can go ahead and poke Pedwin.
I poke Pedwin.
You poke Pedwin, and his skin yields as it normally would. He feels like Pedwin would. However, he does not respond at all to the external stimulus, and still is not moving.
Uh-oh. Can I try bending his arm?
You can try bending his arm. Make a strength check.
I need to bring this sheet up. I don't remember how to do this. Oh, there we go. Edge, character sheet. Did they change the character sheet? No, never mind. I'm on the wrong. Okay. You said strength check?
Yes, make a strength check. You try and move one of his arms, or what are you going to try and do? How are you going to try and move him?
Just see if I can move anything. Like, take its arm and try shaking it to see if it moves at all.
Okay, you grab his arm and you go to move it, and it is like stone. It does not budge even a little bit. You do kind of teeter onto one side, and you now have kind of precariously balanced Pedwin on one of his feet, and he's at almost a 45-degree angle and kind of leaning into you, and still has not moved in the slightest.
Alright, so I'm gonna look back up at you said it was the elf man that did this, right?
Yes.
And then I'm gonna angrily say, "You turned little man into stone," and reach for my great axe.
The elf chuckles slightly to himself, and in a very, very calm demeanor, despite the situation, responds to you with, "As you can see, there has been no change to his flesh. I assure you, no harm has come to him. I cannot say the same for you if you continue to reach for that weapon." At which point the much larger armored individual steps forward and raises one hand, and you can see mounted to one of his wrists is a wooden and brass construct. And as he raises it up, two small arms flick out to the side. And from what you can tell, it's a variety of hand crossbow that is mounted to his wrist. The elven individual continues. What are you going to do?
I proceed to take my hand off the great axe and say, "Oh, okay."
The elven individual then continues and kind of nods in your direction, basically indicating that he has acknowledged the fact that you have stopped your aggressive posturing. He says in a very the same calm and controlled demeanor, "That is enough, Roland." And the armored individual then lowers the crossbow down, but keeping his rapier drawn, pointed at you. The elven individual then turns back to you and says, "You have broken into my home." And he holds up a hand to indicate to the guards that are currently at the entrance to this room to just hold their position. "You have destroyed some of my property and endangered myself and my staff. If you come with me peacefully, you will not be harmed, but we will have to question you."
Am I able to... I don't remember what Burnley did on the ship for us to hate him, other than be a ginormous asshole. Was it just because he was a ginormous asshole, or was it because he was trying to navigate the ship to some strange place? No, he killed the captain. That was it, right?
Yeah. You surmise that he has been behind the captain's poor health and ultimately to his demise, yes. Based off of the things you found in his cabin.
Well, against my instincts, I'm gonna surrender to the little Asian elf man.
The elf then waves the same piece of metal, and all of a sudden your body relaxes, Pedwin, and you can move again. But he keeps it pointed squarely at you, and says, "I strongly suggest you follow your friend's example." What will you do, Pedwin? Flint, who is taking a lead from the two of you, decides that he is not going to put up a resistance, and with a heavy sigh, just raises both arms above his head.
What the hell is he raising his arms above his head for? All for us to fit through.
Yeah, to look at the windows, they're large vertically oriented rectangles, approximately a foot in width, and I'm going to say about 3 or 4 feet high. You could, yes, but you're the smallest member of the crew, so you could potentially fit through that window, but there is no chance for the other two. The armored individual steps forward. The armored individual then speaks up, and his voice is much less friendly. First off, this is the voice of someone who is used to combat and used to not really solving things with words. And he says to you, "We'll take you the same place we take everyone else that makes trouble. If you're going to be questioned, you will be done so in the holding cells at the court." Now, I don't know No, I don't know what you've got there, but I suggest you let it go and show me your hands.
Oh god.
The grenades that you have?
Oh god.
If you wanted to detonate them using produce flame, you would have to like keep the flame in contact with it for long enough for the heat to transfer. Like firebolt is different because that's like an explosive force. So it's basically they have fuses on them. Okay. Okay, so it's like a classic bomb with a fuse and everything. In which case, as soon as the produced flame touches the fuse, you've got maybe 3 seconds. You're not entirely certain. I don't think you've built too many of these in the. Well, actually, you have 4 of them, but okay, all right. So then you're pretty consistent in your construction then. So you know you've got about 3 seconds after the fuse is lit to get away from it.
You played Magic the Gathering in high school?
No, his character's backstory is he comes from a magic college. Okay, so you've been requested to surrender by this large armored guy, and the windows are all along here. Let me draw them in. Okay, so the windows are spaced out like this kind of business, and anywhere you don't see a red line, there is a stone, basically pillar that's forming the wall.
I can't make it out of them.
The only person that could possibly fit through that is going to be Pedwin, and it's going to be a bit of a squeeze. Okay. I actually really need to take a leak, so I'm going to go do that.
Bye. I can tell what's gonna happen. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Okay,
I'm back.
alright.
Do you guys need the window diagrams anymore?
Hey,
What are you going to do? So you're just going to like toss them, just randomly scattering them around. Okay.
hope you're planning on doing that in a general direction so I don't have to worry about them.
Yeah, if you're gonna just kind of randomly scatter them, then I'm gonna have you. Actually, you know what? I guess I can do the rolling for that. What are you thinking? I'm gonna say that you will not be able to throw them and cast Dust Devil simultaneously. You're gonna have to do one, then the other. Okay, so what are you doing first? Okay, so
When you
you throw the bombs that you've constructed, basically finishing bringing your hand out of your pocket and you toss them up into the air. At which point, the elven individual utters the same incantation he did before, and I need you to make a Wisdom saving throw.
oh.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, so you get advantage on it. Oh right, so it's the critical. Well, okay.
I just raised my arms.
Okay. Okay, so it's 15 feet. All right, I gotta do some rolls to see what directions these things went in.
They're lit, right?
How, out of curiosity, how did you light them? You snuffed out your produced flame. You
Now's the
did not say
perfect
that.
now the perfect opportunity to say liar liar pants on fire. Yeah.
Okay, so you toss the grenades into the air, seemingly able to shrug off the effect of you feel that same freezing sensation in all your muscles, but you're able to continue to just force your body to move, and just through sheer force of will, you make yourself move. The grenades that you threw, three of them travel directly over top of Big Mo, and one of them travels. Well, here, let me just draw it in. So three of them traveled this way, and one of them traveled that way. So, in essence, yes. At this point, with the now lit, metal devices that have been cascaded into the air, you see Navigator Burnley raise his hand and attempt to cast a spell, but he's suddenly gripped with very real pain, and his spell falters, and he actually falls down onto one knee, in his face a mixture of confusion and shock and surprise, and not a little bit of discomfort and pain. So you can't move through Big Mo. How are you going to try and get to the window? Okay, so like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's your movement? Okay, so 25 can get you there. And you used your action to toss your grenade, so you have not been able to make it out of the room just yet. You are going to take an opportunity attack if you do that. Okay. Let me bring up the character sheet. Okay. Yeah, I don't. I did we agree before on what their damage would be? Was it 3d6? Okay, so we'll I'll have you roll for that in a second. Okay, so first off, I'm going to have the opportunity attack done. What's your armor class? Okay, so you take 9 points of piercing damage as you run by this large, seemingly half-elven individual. Actually, if you do that, then you are going to have enough movement to try and get through the window. I'm going to need you to make a strength check. Yeah, because you're just barreling into the glass. The bombs are all over the place. Okay, so Pedwin
am I allowed
bolts.
to dive away from the bombs?
I
don't know if I'm allowed to take action, but I'd really like to dive away from the bombs.
Well, you haven't been paralyzed. However, you didn't really know this is coming, so I'm gonna have you do a dexterity saving throw. Is it really? Oh, okay. Okay, so what way are you diving?
Away from the bombs.
Okay, so which direction? Are you going forward? Are you
I
going
think-
to your left?
I think to my right, if I'm like away
So you're gonna
from
go
the
towards the
windows.
door?
Yeah, like dive towards the door because all the bombs are to my left, right? Like that's the path they took.
Well, 3 of them went like either
Over my
above
head.
you or to your left, yes, and one of them is traveling in front of you in an arc.
To the left, right? Like forward and to the left in front of me. In which case, the best place to dive would be to my right.
Yes, the best place to dive would be to the right.
I'm gonna dive to the right. And just like follow my stomach is what I.
Okay, so you Big Mo he ducks and then dives out to the right hand side and lands prone. Pedwin, I need you to roll. Okay, roll 3d6, please. Okay. I'm gonna make a dexterity save for what's his face, Flint.
Really did it this time, Joe.
Okay, so Flint dives backwards and manages to. He kind of slams himself into the wall behind him, but is otherwise fine. Big Mo is able to successfully dive off to the right-hand side and lands prone with his hands covering his head. The elven, well, first off, the grenades then go off and do 11 points of damage to. And actually, Steve-O's only going to take half of that. So, Steve-O, I want you to take 6 points of damage.
Wait.
And Roland is going to take 6 points of damage. So the force of Pedwin throwing himself against the glass, coupled with the concussive force of the grenades, causes most of the windows to shatter. And he is able to successfully squeeze himself out of a second-story window and immediately begins falling to the ground. then yes, you can cast Featherfall.
At this point, I'm muttering, "That's stupid." I don't remember what. Are you a gnome?
He is a gnome.
Or that stupid gnome?
So Pedwin then basically forces himself through one of these slats and begins to plummet towards the ground, but then muttering a quick incantation, his descent seems to mysteriously slow, and he's able to just touch down on the ground. I'm assuming you're running. Okay, so he begins to take off through the courtyard, at which point you hear a kind of mechanical release sound. What's your AC? Okay, you take 7 points of piercing damage. And I want you to make a Constitution saving throw. Okay, from you feel a sharp pierce as something jams its way into your shoulder. And from it you can feel the pulsation of a very cold sensation through your shoulder, but it seems to create that same kind of gripping, freezing effect in your muscle, but it doesn't seem to take much hold, and you are able to shrug off that particular effect. As you are fleeing, I'm gonna switch you to this one, Pedwin, so you can see.
You big dummy. Actually, no. I think Dingaling is better. Yeah, Dingaling.
So, Pedwin, you land there, and you begin to flee, noticing that there are several guards that are also in this courtyard.
Hey, that's actually pretty good.
Okay, make a persuasion check. Oh no, yeah, I guess it would be deception. Well, yeah, it would be deception. Make a deception check. Oh well, there you go. Oh wow. Okay, so here's what happens. You cry out that there is a madman in there, and the nearest guard to you is so incredibly confused as to what just happened that he's like, and then just darts right into the building, and you lose sight of him. There are very small gaps between some of the buildings, but you can't really tell from there. Why don't you go ahead and make a perception check? So you can see that between some, not all of the buildings, but through some of them, there are small fenced-off alleyways, and where there are like aesthetically things blocking your view, like plants or potters or small wrought iron fences, there is no solid wall that would prevent you from trying to get through that. The smallest one that you could still fit through would probably be here. All right. So you immediately dart towards that alley, and I'm gonna say you're gonna need to make an acrobatics check. And you manage to start kind of squeezing your way through. It's a really tough squeeze. You've got like brick and stone that's just kind of constantly scraping against your skin and your clothing, and you can feel that some of it's starting to do like mild bits of surface damage to the clothing. And you are worming your way through. In that time, the guards that you did not manage to beguile into running into the building, he's going to raise a crossbow up and take one shot at you. That is 13 to AC. However, he rolled a 1 on his damage, so you take 2 damage. So you are continuing to maneuver your way through this increasingly small alleyway, and and while you do so, another bolt slams into the same shoulder that took the first bolt. However, it's a poor shot. It ricochets off some of the stonework, so it doesn't impact with very much force. And you are nearly through now. I'm going to need you to make one more acrobatics check. The buildings here get a little bit closer together, and you find that you're actually kind of stuck in between the two buildings, and forward momentum has basically halted. You have stonework pressed right up against your face, and you've had to completely sideways orient your head and your shoulders and everything, and you're trying to just squirm your way through this increasingly narrow gap, and you're currently stuck in position there. You can hear some of the voices of the guards. You can hear a combination of insults being thrown around that the shot was so poor. You can hear, "Well, he went down there. Look, you shot at him. Just go chase him." And you hear an argument between the two of them. It's like, "I can't fit down there. What the hell is wrong with you?" You hear another voice saying, "Go around." Well, hold up. So while this is going on, we are going to flick back to Big Mo, who is still currently in this room. The last you saw of Pedwin, Big Mo, after the grenades went off, you heard the shattering of glass, and then a small gnome voice that you're quite familiar with saying that there's a madman inside, and you hear hurried steps, or you hear hurried footfalls coming up the stairs leading to this room. The large and armored individual that had at one point been at the window that Pedwin had fled from and fired off his hand crossbow, he turns around, heads straight for you.
I just put my hands over my head.
The half-elven individual grabs you and hauls you to your feet, and basically just stares you straight in the face and says, "You're not that stupid, are you?"
I just look him in the face and it's like, no.
Good. He indicates to the guards that are at the door to come inside. He says, "Take him, and points to the dwarf that's against the back wall, and put them in the holding cells for questioning." At which point the elven individual speaks up and says, "This one too," and indicates towards Burnley, and Burnley is very surprised by this turn of events. as guards start to flood into the room, you realize that there were more than you could initially see out there, and it's probably a good idea that you are not currently fighting. At this turn of events, Burnley looks towards the elven individual that just ordered his incarceration and says, "But I don't understand. What have I done?" To which the elf turns back to him and says, "I have been doubtful as to the stories you have told me since your arrival, and now I have armed intruders barging into my private residence. You have endangered myself and my family, and I want to know the answers to these questions. Take him away." And as more guards come into the room, they begin to... Well, Steve-O, are you going peacefully? Or Big Mo, are you going peacefully?
I intend to, yes.
Okay, and Flint is going peacefully as well. So 2 guards begin to then struggle and flank Burnley. And he, realizing the situation, then acquiesces and chooses to go with the guards. Alright, so all of you proceed to file out of the building. Actually, Pedwin's no longer there. Okay, so you all start leaving the room.
So I can't believe you...
He totally abandoned you? Yeah, that's what he did. So as you return back to the main level, Steve-O, you can see that there's still slight disarray as to what's going on. You see some servants that are kind of peering around corners very curiously, wondering why all these guards have stormed in. Some others have already fled. And you hear from the floor beneath you you hear the sound of kind of an arcane crackle, and what sounds almost like a very muffled explosion. And up the stairs...
Wait, can I still see Burnley?
No, Burnley is still upstairs. And you are just coming down the stairs now, so you're about to hit the main level. And as you do that, you can see, or you can hear the footfalls of somebody that's coming up from the lowest floor of the house. All right, let me maneuver people around here. Okay, so we're going to jump back to Pedwin for the time being. So Pedwin, you are currently stuck between 2 buildings. What are you going to do? 5-foot radius, DC of 12. Okay, cool. Thanks for letting me know that. Where did you find that? In the DM guide? Ah, yes, explosives. I didn't even know there was a page for this. Okay. All right, I will accept that for the time being. Alien technology? What the fuck? As a part of the guide I have not read. Okay. So you are currently stuck between 2 buildings. I'm going to have you make another dexterity check. Or, sorry, acrobatics check. No, this is going to be straight dexterity. So you worm as you might, you cannot get yourself dislodged. You can kind of shimmy back and forth a little bit, and it would be easy to back up, but getting forward through this is going to be... You're going to have to keep working at it if you're committed to it. You can hear the armored sound of someone trying to worm their way through the same passage that you're in. You can hear an argument amongst two of the other guards. One of them has come out of the building, and his friend is admonishing him. He's like, "A madman, really, really, you fell for that." I wanted to protect the orb holder. We're all here to protect the orb holder, okay? Who do you think we're protecting him from? And the two of them just they continue to have an argument between each other. What you can use the arm that's on that side. It's difficult, and it really complains against you, given that there's two bolts that are currently jammed into it. But you can reach the shoulder, yes. Oh, I would say you're about a meter, like 3 feet. So you're gonna try and like smear it? Okay. For the purpose of this, I'm gonna say that when you were getting in here, you were leading with that shoulder. Otherwise, there's no way you could like flick blood over top of your head. Yes, I will say that you can cast some blood on the wall to make it seem as if you've on the ground outside.
So he's saying like if they try to if they try to go around and find him, they'll see blood on the ground and think he made it out and ran away.
Ah, okay. Well, they are coming around. I will say that now. Okay, so you want to make it look as if you fled. Okay. I'm gonna say make another deception check. Okay, that'll do it. You manage to, rather painfully again, because you've got two bolts jammed in this arm or this shoulder. You do manage to smear and flick some of the blood that's currently seeping off your shoulder onto the ground. And you're able to just maneuver one foot to kind of stamp in some to make it look like you made a footprint. So, in order to get out of here? Oh, absolutely. Okay. So you back up a little bit. The pressure of the wall is starting to give because you are moving towards a wider gap between these two buildings. And as you do, you can hear behind you one of the guards. Here, I see him. And the reloading sound of another bolt being loaded into a crossbow, and that crossbow being readied. You hear the sound of more footsteps as additional guards are starting to move towards this area where there's been an exclamation that you've been found. Okay. Okay, what's the range on sleep? They're not for casting, like its area of effect. Is it a 20-foot sphere? 20-foot radius. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna change this guy off that layer because he came back. There he is. Okay, so you are casting sleep on the guard that's trying to get to you. All right, so Go ahead and... Is it a spell attack roll, or is there a saving throw or anything? Okay. Alright. So it's going to affect 18 HP. Okay. So you turn and see this guard that has crossbow at the ready, looking directly at you. And you wave your hand and mutter an incantation, and you see he starts to waver a little bit, and his crossbow aim starts to lean left and right, and then he just closes his eyes and falls over. And he is knocked prone. Some of the other guards that are just behind him are then rushing up behind him. You can also see the nearest one is his steps become. He starts to stumble and he shakes his head, and he does definitely appear to be very groggy, but is able to just and shake it off. And then he too draws his crossbow and points it directly at you. You hear a call out from the room above you. It is the elven voice that you're already familiar with. And he says, "He is to be taken for questioning." The guard... No, he can see the guards that are in the courtyard. And he has surmised that you're there. If you want to, but you're definitely going to risk being shot at. Okay. You put your hands up and say, "I surrender." And you jump around the corner. Make a... Well, first off, let me do this. Alright, so you put your hands up and say, "I surrender," and then jump, and immediately a crossbow bolt hits the stone behind you where you just were. The response that you get is, "Squirmy little bastard, come back here." And you hear the sound of the remaining guard that went to sleep being kicked and woken up. "Get up!" You hear the sound of someone slowly getting to their feet. Alright, so, are you going to make another attempt to get out through this gap? Alright, I want you to make one more dexterity check. Alright, you manage to squirm and worm, and you tear some of your robes and your clothing in the process, but you do manage to pop out the other side, and you are on the far side of the building, where there is a guard waiting. They went around. You heard them call it out. You did not go very far. Or I should say that you weren't buying yourself a lot of time. You cast a spell and then ducked out of the way immediately. He actually just takes the opportunity to bash you in the face with the hilt of his sword. You take... wait, your armor class is 12, you said? Okay, that just connects. You take 9 points of damage. And you are rendered unconscious. Alright. While all that's going on, I'm just going to bring your view back to everybody else's, Joe, because your vision fades to darkness with the dull impact of the hilt of the sword connecting with your forehead with a solid thunk. And dramatic music plays, I guess. All right, so Big Mo, you and Flint have been walking down the stairs, and you continue to hear some commotion outside. And a few muffled words exchanged. You hear an argument between two people, and you are led by the guards towards the front door.
Okay.
Kind of flanked on all sides.
Yeah, I didn't really expect you to make it out of this one.
It would have had to be a pretty incredible series of rolls to get you guys out of there.
Yep. Like I said, I didn't expect to get out of this one. Especially with Joe doing his shenanigans.
So as you're leaving, or I should say, as you are being led out of the building, you can hear coming up the stairs from the basement some footfalls. And you manage to crank your head around to see someone in a white robe that's also adorned with several feathers, and there are...
Is it the Lady of the Lake?
You don't recognize this individual. You do note with the quick glance you see that there are... Not only are her robes quite white, but they're trimmed with kind of like a dark gold colored fabric around the fringes of it. There are red triangles that adorn the robe that are kind of coming off from the neckline.
Can I wink at her? Can she see me? Can I wink at her?
She can see you. You cannot see her face, but if you would like to wink at her, you can do that. As she's coming up the stairs, Steve-O winks at the mysterious stranger. She seemingly takes no notice of the wink, but stands at the foot of the stairs. And when the elf starts to come into view, she looks at him and gives a kind of derisive snort and says, "I see some things never change." The elf doesn't even seem to acknowledge her presence at first, and orders the armored individual that was in the room, that you can only assume now is a kind of guard for this person. He says, "I want them taken to the holding cells for questioning. Put them all in separate cells. And for the small one, place some wards around his." "Yes, sir," is the response from the armored individual. And he barks a couple of orders at some of the guards, indicating that they're supposed to take this group of people that have just broken into this place into the holding cells in the court. As you are leaving, you hear an exchange between the elf and the woman in the white robes. "As always, it is unpleasant to see you again. What are you doing here?" And that's all you manage to catch as you are kind of shunted out of the building. You do hear one small exchange between the elf and one of his servants, and he says, "Disassemble the tiles and bring me the keystone. I do not wish for any other unintended visitors." "Yes, sir," you hear the servant girl say, and she... Again, you can only hear footsteps at this point, but they shuffle off, and then you hear the sound of her descending stairs. Okay, let's bring everybody back to here. So, Big Mo, you get outside and you see that there are several guards that are kind of clustered around the small gap between this building and one of the neighboring houses. And you're brought outside by a cadre of these guards. And as you all... Yeah?
Can I assume the guards are there for Pedwin?
You Make an intelligence check. There's some guards. They seem to be very interested in that alley. One of them is getting up. Pedwin, make a death saving throw.
You're telling me the guards aren't going to try to revive him?
Well, you have one success, so you can go ahead and mark that down. As one of the guards goes and picks up the unconscious body of Pedwin, one of the other ones comes over and basically just does a quick check of your head and notes that he pulls out the remaining crossbow bolts and then smears a kind of ointment over top of your arm. The bleeding seems to stop. You are still unconscious, but you are no longer needing to make death saving throws. Yes, it smells like baking soda. It has a little foamy action as well. All right, so as the group of you are being led via the troop of guards towards the courthouse, you can see that the commotion has attracted the attention of a number of the citizenry. You look around and you can see individuals of different races. So there's a combination of elves, there's humans, there's gnomes, a couple of halflings. Not too many dwarves in this region of the city. And they're all just kind of chatting amongst themselves, and you hear the small murmur of crowds as you are led, and in Pedwin's case, carried towards the courthouse. So as you round a few corners, what you do happen to notice, which I'm going to have, Big Mo, can you make a perception check?
If I can find it.
Nice.
Dog.
So what you happen to notice is one out-of-place guard standing in the crowd that seems to be staring at you rather transfixed, and almost with a look of kind of recognition on their face. And you see that they turn and they say something off into some of the shadows that they are standing nearby to. And as you are walking by, you see Holg's head pop out from the shadows, and he locks eyes with you, and then looks at Flint, and then looks at the guard carrying Pedwin, and then slinks back into the shadow and out of your sight.
Did I see him?
You saw him, yes, and he saw you.
Did I give him a wink?
You can certainly give him a wink.
Give him a wink.
Before he slinks back into the shadows, he gives kind of a nod in your general direction, and then disappears out of sight. All right, so the group of you.
It's not the pod people.
Okay, give me a second. Somebody's calling me. I'm gonna be right back. But you guys are in prison, just so you know. Okay, I'm back. So the group of you are led back through the large courtyard that features that broken stone peak. And again, you do notice that there's many people in this city, all kind of going about their business. As you leave the area that you were previously stopped at by some of the guards, you do notice a minor change in the makeup of the crowd. Not only are there more people, but you notice a sharp rise in the number of elven population. And most people are not quite as finely dressed. It's just, it definitely there is a sort of district nature to the city that you're in that seems to indicate that only people, like the area you were leaving was somewhat of a privileged area. You are then led to one of the large buildings immediately adjacent to the courtyard that you were in before. Pedwin, by this point in time, you have regained consciousness. And as you do, both your hands are immediately seized by a guard on either side, and one of them slaps a kind of, well, it basically, it's the bottom half of a helmet that's been repurposed to keeping somebody's mouth shut. And this is, you go ahead and you can make some rabid dog noises. You snarl at some of the people nearby. And when they see this, they and react and kind of take a step back from you. All of you are brought into a large stone structure, the exterior of which it features pillars that come up along the front of the building that support an overhanging roof, and you ascend the small staircase to get to the doors that lead you inwards, and you are led by the guards past a large statue that features a big set of scales that have been fashioned out of brass. And it's like, maybe, it's a good, like, 7 feet tall or so. Like, it's an ornamental piece, but it's put right in the center of the building, at least on the floor that you're on. And you can see more stairwells that progress up towards the back of the building and then curl around to the sides, leading to upper levels of the building. There are large windows that are casting light in from the, well, now that you're in the building, from the left-hand side. And you get out through the window, you can still see some of the peak of that stone spire in the courtyard. You are led downstairs. There's a brief exchange between some of the guards, and it is understood that you are to be separated and held for questioning. And so each of you, so Burnley, Flint, Big Mo, are all put in separate cells, and then Pedwin is taken to a different cell on the opposite side. And before the gag is released and the guards let him go, there is someone that there is an individual in robes that arrives that mutters a small incantation and then waves his hand over the cell that Pedwin is going to be in, and you see the bars themselves, and which are actually, it turns out that they are one solid piece, and they actually connect to a lattice that's built into the stonework of the floor, and all of the metalwork seems to pulse very briefly with a blue glow, and then disappears. At that point, the gag is removed from you, and you are tossed rather with very little concern for your well-being. You are just tossed right into the cell, and the door slams shut. one of the guards staying there says, "Now don't you try anything funny." No.
Yeah, they let you keep that in the jail cell.
Your belongings were taken, but you did see where they were put. They were put into chests. They were actually taken in front of you, and you can see that there was an attempt made to demonstrate the fact that despite the fact that they're taking these things from you, they are showing you where they are being put, and everyone's belongings are put into the same chest. Again, what you do notice is that Burnley does not have his axe, and a couple of small pouches are removed from his person, and he says, "Wait, there's no threat for those objects." And the guards sort of scoff and just toss it all into the same chest. And then he is also put into one of the cells. The chest is then locked. And that individual that uttered the incantation over top of the bars of Pedwin's cell also then goes to the chest and mutters another incantation over top of that. And again, you see it glow with a similar blue haze for a moment, which then fades away and seems to get drawn into the chest. You see for a moment a strange and confused look on the robed individual's face as he does that. And he tests it, and the chest opens, and he looks inside and looks at the contents, and then closes it again, and then performs the same incantation with the same reaction. He then disappears for a moment, rather quickly up the stairs, and you do not see him return for a time. You're all now sitting in jail cells. On one wall is, or I should say on one side of the aisle, separated by not only the iron bars, but also a small gap of maybe 4 or so feet in between these large stone pillars that support the floor above where you guys are. You're each, along one wall is Flint, and then Big Mo, and then Burnley. And opposite Big Mo is Pedwin in this more specialized cell. Burnley speaks up for the first time and addresses you. "If only you had done so sooner."
Done what sooner?
Learnt his You're not even listening to me, are you?
Listening to what? Are you trying to give us a valuable life lesson, Burnley?
I don't know what any of you are doing here. But I do not need any interference.
We want to
from the
beat the
likes of
shit
you.
out of you. Does that count for something?
Well, you seem to have done admirably in that respect. He
Well,
then
no.
taps the bars.
No, we didn't beat the shit out of you. We just got you put into a jail cell.
You got us all put into jail cells. Thank
And
you.
that's much better than only us being put into jail cells.
What are you even doing here?
Well, we wanted to beat the shit out of you.
The last I had seen of all of you before I lost consciousness on the ship. When you say that, he turns to you and looks at you and thought, "I suspected as much."
Sorry.
Why are you even chasing me?
So we can beat the shit out of you.
Yes, you said that.
Why do you keep asking?
Because I want to know why you would pursue me across such dangers. Revenge, is that it? I have not even wronged you.
Nice. Well, yeah, that, and I also want to beat the shit out of you.
Upon hearing your declaration that you want to take the axe from him, he stands up to his fullest height And he looks at you, and he says, "You will not touch that which has been gifted to me by Talos."
Uh-huh. Odd people.
Upon you saying that, he turns to you. "I am not the one who has assaulted the home and person of one of the most powerful individuals on this island."
Well, he kind of seems to be... What? Well, it seems we might be on better grounds with that person than you are at this point.
"I think not.
I think so.
Were I to tally the actions that have brought us here, I have tried to avail myself to the services of this city. You and your friends have barged in and endangered more than one life in attempting to do so, and then even offered the opportunity to explain yourselves, and in place, I don't even know what those things were, but you certainly ruined that room."
Don't look at me. I had nothing to do with that stunt.
He turns to Big Mo and says, "If I were you, I would seek out better companions."
I already have a couple, but you can't beat the unexpected.
At that, he chuckles and says, "Well, that was certainly unexpected."
That got me too.
At which point, one of the guards that's been subjected to this back and forth between all of you bangs his weapon on the bars and says, "Hey, quiet down.
You
Lights out
quiet
soon."
down. Oh, does Mr. Guard not get his nap?
He walks up to you, or he walks up to the bars, staying out of arm's reach, and says, "If Mr. Guard doesn't get his nap, Mr. Barbarian doesn't get his food."
Oh no.
And actually, almost on cue, one of the servants comes down and begins to spoon out several portions of soup with a small piece of bread, and one is pushed into Burnley's cell, one is pushed into Pedwin's cell. When he comes to push one into Big Mo's cell, the guard basically just smacks the tray out of his hand. And the servant seems very confused and surprised, and the guard just looks at him very sternly. And the servant kind of shakes his head and then gets another tray and portion of food and gives that to Flint. And then the guard then grabs the servant by the scruff and says, "Now piss off." It's, it seems like it's been reasonably cooked, so it's relatively warm, not scalding hot.
I gotta say, and you're gonna go around wasting food like that?
Oh, I don't think it was a waste at all.
Oh, it looks like it's being wasted.
He then sits down to his own meal and begins eating a similar but, slightly more generous portion of the same kind of food.
Yeah, lean back in the cell. Like,
and
relaxing
you do.
Posture.
And you relax against the bars. And there is, time begins to pass. You can see that actually, you can't see the sun from down here, but you get the sense that evening is starting to settle in. As you look around, you notice the occasional rat that's darting by and stops and sniffs around and takes in the surroundings and then just darts off into some shadow. And slowly the guard that... Or actually, there's been an exchange of the guards. So the one that initially denied Big Mo his food then trades off. And a new guard takes his place, who then, sitting in the chair, starts to slowly dip his head and a soft snoring sound begins to emanate from this guard.
And I yell real loud, "Hey, wake up!"
You yell, and the guard. Oh. Oh. And then resumes his post, standing up this time, occasionally walking around.
I gotta say, slacking off like that's gonna get us out of here.
You say that to him?
Yeah, to the guard.
The guard is who, you know, he was definitely kind of caught with his pants down there. He goes a little red in the face and then taps on the bars and says, "I don't think you're going anywhere."
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
As night begins to settle, the guard is then just kind of making his rounds. It does not fall asleep again, but all of you eventually settle down for the evening. There are small cots in here, and you know, it's not high quality accommodations, but there's serviceable beds, and you're able to get some uneasy rest. Is there anything anybody wants to do over the course of the night?
Get a long rest.
Let me see. Let's take a look at your inventory. Okay, everything on the second page is in the back. Everything below the backpack. Okay. So the backpack was taken. So there is nothing. You don't have any of the contents of the backpack. Your dagger was taken. Your healing potions were taken. I love the description on the tattered note, by the way. The map is gone. The navigator's tools are gone. You don't have any more bombs, right? They did leave your arcane focus. They were not able to find where it was. It wasn't just hanging out. But other than that, the only thing you have is your arcane focus. Make an Arcana check. You do recognize that they are symbols of warding, and you can gather, you don't know this, but you suspect that they're also kind of an alarm system, so if you try anything, someone's going to know. But they are also meant to suppress the impact of magic, so you doubt that you'll be able to do any casting inside as long as this ward is active. You do also remember that that something similar was cast over the chest that has everyone's possessions in it. For the time being,
I'm just gonna go to sleep.
All right, you're gonna go to sleep. Burnley you hear, slow and soft breathing on his part.
I restore my health.
Yep, everyone gets to restore their health back to full.
Yeah.
I just want to take a look at something real quick. You're gonna use, yeah.
Are you doing a handstand when you do it?
Yep, it's like a natural property, right? It's not something that you have to cast. Oh, wow, you got... Well, it's nice that you can basically force somebody to critically fail. It's kind of sweet, actually. All right. So as the night sets in... Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing here, that's why. Sorry, give me a sec, I gotta look something up. Okay. So you all come to the next morning. What you immediately notice is that Burnley is not in his cell.
Uh-oh.
However, Big Mo is still in his cell, Pedwin's still in his cell, Flint is still in his cell. There is also a different guard from the one last night, but he is standing watch.
You mean of the two from last night?
No, there was only one watching you. They took shifts and they traded off.
Is it the first guy who didn't give me food?
Nope. It's somebody different.
Dang, I was gonna taunt him a second time.
So are any of you doing anything or speaking to anybody?
I'm gonna sit there in an early morning daze and stare at the floor. As the sleepy people do.
Alright, so during your time there was another guard that, or there's another servant that comes by and hands everyone out a portion of food. Burnley's is just sitting there in his cell. And after a point in time, or after, I'm going to say maybe an hour or so it's still relatively early morning, Burnley is brought back downstairs by one of the guards and the half-elven individual that you recognize in all the armor from the orb holder's house. And he is put back into his cell.
Wait, who is this?
Burnley is put back into his cell. And the half-elven guard looks at him and says, "I don't trust you." Burnley looks back at him and says, "That is not my problem." With a snort, the guard turns away and goes up to your cell, Big Mo, and says, "You're wanted for questioning."
Is this a guard I recognize? Is this the one I taunted?
No, this is the guy from the orb holder's house, the half elf in all the armor.
Oh,
he's the one who shot Pedwin with the crossbow, or the hand crossbow.
I'll stand up.
He turns on a heel and says, "The feeling is mutual." He doesn't even respond at that point, and the guard opens up the door, and Big Mo, you are flanked by this half-elven person and one of the other guards, and you are brought upstairs.
I'm flanked?
Yeah, they're on either side of you. So you're brought upstairs. Once again, you cross the large open foyer that has the symbol of the large statue of those scales. And this time you're not led downstairs, you're actually led upstairs through or down one of the halls and just past many different doors, and you can see that the building itself is a relatively nice interior. There are pieces of furniture around, small statues, pieces of art. You see a number of portraits that have been painted. You're not really close enough to get a look at well, I should tell you what, make a perception check.
Am I doing a perception check to look at the paintings?
To look at the placards at the bottom of the portraits. So you're not able to get a really good look at any of the placards, but you do see a number of them are elven individuals. There are three that stand out amongst the largest. One of them is a female, two of them are male. And you can see that the female one also has a similar robe to the one that you saw on the woman in the orb holder's house, but there is a different design to it. It is slightly more ornate, and she has a very, very stern look on her face. You definitely looking at it, you would say that she's a beautiful woman, but the beauty of her face is a very harsh one. There's lots of edges, like the bridge of her nose is very straight and comes down, and there's seemingly very little joy in her face. She's a very, very stolid and stoic looking person. Whereas one of the other elves is a much more joyous looking individual. Even through the portrait, you can see that there's some attempt to the edges of his mouth kind of curl up a little bit into a small smile, and he generally looks just like a very warm and welcoming face and individual. And the remaining male portrait has almost a kind of sneer on his face, or a look of derision or haughtiness, like he thinks very highly of himself. So you are brought down the hall, and you are led into a room. Your hands and feet they're not manacled, but you can see that there are more guards on this level now, so it's not just the two that brought you up here. And you are led into a room where they sit you down at a chair. And you're sitting there kind of in a small depression in this room, and there is a large, tall desk, maybe 1.5, 2 meters tall, and sitting at it one is the elven individual that you saw yesterday. One is the guard that brought you here, the half-elven man. One of them is a dwarf that's sitting immediately to the right of the elven individual. And you don't see them at first, but you do notice a white-robed person that is kind of standing off to the side, not sitting at the table, but they are in the room, and they're kind of taking in the scene that's before them.
Did you say sorry, I lost
You zoned out?
Yeah. Did you say the one guy, the elf guy with the magic stick that stoned people was in there?
Yes, he's sitting at the desk.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
And actually that guy is first to speak, or that the elf is first to speak. And he says, "For the record, state your name." Are you going to say nothing?
Boris Armstrong.
What?
That's my dude's name.
Oh, it's Boris Armstrong. Okay.
No, Morris Armstrong.
Sorry, Morris Armstrong. You see someone off to the side it's the dwarf. You see them write something down on the desk, or on the surface that they're sitting at. Morris, you stand accused of breaking and entering and endangering the population of the city of Mason's Rest. What do you have to say in your defense?
Well, I'm not going to argue against us breaking and entering. But I wouldn't go as far to say we were injuring the public. Maybe just a couple guards.
At this point, the elf at the top of the table, he waves his hand, and one of the doors, not the one that you were brought in from, but a different one, so the door opens, and you see a familiar face. You see the face of the man whose robes you tore when you were in the crossroads. And he walks out and bows very, very over the top and seemingly making a show of being respectful.
Oh boy.
And the elf indicates to that person, this man claims that you and your companions nearly set fire to the trading camp at the crossroads. How do you respond to this?
That may have also happened.
You are not there.
I don't know how the fire started, but I have a good guess as to how it started.
And how did the fire start?
Oh, I don't know. I just told you that.
You said you had a guess.
Yes, but it's not accurate. If I had to put false thoughts into people's minds.
At this point, the man speaks up and says, "It wasn't this one." Oh, hang on. I gotta try and remember his voice. He's got like a kind of an island feel to it. It was not this man. It was the short one. This man, he damaged my property. Took from me something I wanted.
What, a small boy?
I didn't see any boy kept in that cage. I saw a bear, a very dangerous creature. That is what I wanted.
Shifted into a boy. His brother you had captured too. You even admitted it.
At that point, he becomes a little bit uncomfortable with the revelation of this particular detail, and you hear a couple of hushed whispers between some of the individuals that are seated at the desk. The
Not
elf
only
then...
that, you threatened to kill his brother if he tried to run away. You spoke to the bear like a person.
The man interrupts you and says, "I am not the one being questioned here." And then, at that point, the elf speaks up again and says, "Not this time. That is all, Samir. Please." And indicates for this man to leave, and then who then walks back out the door after once again bowing in a very showy and overly graceful manner. He then leaves and the door shuts behind him.
I like stick my nose up. Yes.
You stick your nose up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
The next hour or so starts to proceed where there are questions that are posed to you regarding things like how you came to the island, what brought you there, why you decided to break into that particular building.
Yeah. So when I tell them these things, my choice is to be 100% honest with them. But when I tell it to them, I'm gonna imply that the axe was given to me by my father. Like the Burnley's great axe was given to me by my father, and Burnley stole it when we were on the ship during all the chaos.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so are there any other details that you want to add to your story?
I want to make sure I also talk about Burnley stealing the compass from... I'm not going to go into details about who I forget his name, the guy who pilots the... not the SS Kidney, the fish ship.
Oh, Boff.
Yeah, the SS Great Whale or whatever.
The Tidefin. The ship is called the Tidefin.
The Free Willy. So I'm not gonna go into specifics about who he is, but I'm gonna talk about his compass being stolen by Burnley. I think it was his compass. If not, I'm gonna say it's his compass anyways, because we need the compass.
No, it is. That's okay, Bob's compass.
Yeah. And I'm also gonna bring up Holg when Holg went to go get the compass. Burnley locked him in the dungeon and all that fun stuff.
Okay, so I'm
telling them everything and putting a twist on it to make it sound like the great axe is mine, given to me by my father.
So you're not being 100% honest then, is what you're saying?
Everything else is 100% honest, except for that fact.
Make a charisma check.
Good God.
A charisma saving throw, sorry.
Oh God.
So as you're retelling these events, there's the dwarven individual there as you're going through some of the details, you mention the part about the axe, and he looks at you, and and cocks one eyebrow up, and then leans in and says something to the elf, and then comes back, and you see him continue to write down on the paper that he has. And after you conclude your story, is there anything else you're going to add to it, or it's a retelling of everything? Like, are you talking about like the story from when you left Baldur's Gate, or
Yeah. Yeah, so basically everything. Like
okay,
I just spill everything. Just
all
because
right,
I myself not understanding what's good and bad, don't think we've done anything bad at all.
okay,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
At which point the elf then bows his head and says, "We appreciate your testimony. This guard will return you to your cell. I will see that you are fed properly." And you are at that point you're brought up and you're led back down to the cells. You pass by the same portraits, down the stairs, past the large brass sculpture, and then led back to your cell. So Pedwin, at this point, you see two guards come down with Big Mo in between the two of them, and he is led back to his cells, and a tray of food is brought out to him. At this point, the two of them, or those two guards, and the half elf guard that you recognize from the orb holder's residence, they go and they take Flint, and Flint is brought upstairs, and about an hour passes, and then Flint is brought back down, and then they come to you.
Oh, good God, no.
The half elf guard says, "It will be very shortly. Stand in the center of the room, or the center of your cell."
But in the center of the bars.
You see some of the guards, they kind of look around a little nervously, and the half-elf guard says again, "I will ask you once more. Stand in the center of the room, both hands in the air. Say nothing. Do not toy with me, gnome. Stand in the center of your cell. Arms raised. Say nothing."
I'm gonna chuckle while stuffing my face with food that's still that I've
All right,
been
you munch down on the
nursing.
bread, and you can tell that it was made that day, and the soup is fine. Like it's decent quality food. You're happy to have it. Your stomach is very appeased. The guard then the half elf guard then sighs heavily. You see him fiddle with something on his wrist, and then he sticks his arm between the bars and fires a crossbow bolt at Pedwin. The bolt connects with you, and I need you to make a Constitution saving throw. The bolt connects with you, and you actually don't take very much damage. It seems as if this bolt was not really designed to do a lot of piercing or puncturing damage, but an immensely overwhelming, heavy sense hits your body all of a sudden, and you are very, very drowsy. And it seems almost off in the distance that you hear the sound of a door being unlocked and swung open. This is something that was prepped especially for you, you get the feeling for. You feel manacles clap around your arms, and that same gag is placed over top of your mouth. And you are in a very drowsy and groggy manner led up to Yes, you can drowsily mumble, "Oh, you meant three-dimensional space." The guards share a momentary confused look between the two of them, and they continue to lead you upstairs through a hallway of similar description, at least from what you can tell through the haze, which is actually fading away quite rapidly. You are brought into a chamber where you sit on a small chair in a depression in the floor, and you are looking up at a tall desk with the elven individual, a dwarf, and the half-elven guard that brought you here that shot you with his crossbow. You also notice standing at the side of the room is an individual in a white robe that the individual in the white walks up and waves their hand over you, muttering a small incantation, and you feel immediately refreshed and cleansed of anything that is slowing down your wits. Well, so I think you get the feeling that interrogating somebody that's been drugged is not going to be the most productive of consequences. So you are refreshed and kind of brought back to being. The gag is removed. However, your hands are still chained, and they have been actually affixed to the chair so they can only point downwards. The elven individual speaks up. State your name for the record. At this point, for the first time, the person in the white robe speaks up, and he's, "Oh, I thought for certain that okay." And then he walks up again and mutters and casts the same incantation. And then he takes a look at you, and he kind of opens up one of your eyes and looks into it, and just otherwise kind of just like gently manipulating your face and kind of checking your vitals. And then he comes back up, and he seems fine, and walks back over to the end of the room. You get a good look at him. He's kind of an older gentleman. You actually recognize this man. He was one of the individuals that was in the courtyard that was giving a small sermon to some people about cautioning against the misuse of magic. You're right. He was cautioning against the misuse of magic. You do. So you recognize the guy. Okay. So, the question is repeated by the elf. State your name for the record. The three at the desk exchange a sideways glance amongst each other, and the half-elf speaks up. This will be one of your only chances to create to testify on your own behalf. If a trial is necessary, one will be conducted. But this information you provide now will be taken into account, so should such an event occur. You would do well to be truthful and forthright. The elf kind of raises his hand and says, "Roland, please." He then looks back to you. Pedwin Sinkur, you stand accused of endangering the populace of Mason's Rest, causing civil unrest, assault of a guard, and forcible breaking and entering into a private residence. How do you respond to these charges? Would you care to state those reasons, or shall you have us guess them? The elf kind of chuckles to himself momentarily. I do not think your mission will make much progress if you spend the remainder of your time here in the cell that you were previously occupying. If you wish to have any freedom to complete this task that you have been so charged with, you would do well to cooperate. And why is Burnley of such interest to you? At this point, the three of them kind of lean back a little bit with a quizzical look on their face. The dwarven individual for the first time speaks up. There is no Gnomish Academy of Magic on these islands. Then please tell us, what business does the Gnomish Academy of Magic have here on our home?
A Scottish accent?
Make a charisma saving throw. Once again, well, actually, you didn't see it the first time, but the dwarf gets a very serious and puzzled look on his face for a moment, and then leans over and speaks to the elf, and then writes something down that you can't see, but you can tell that he's been kind of recording your testimony so far. The dwarf then leans in. I don't think you're being very honest with us. Like I said. We have received no envoys from the mainland. That has been true for more than 200 years. What possible reason do you have to come here now? The way Mr. Burnley tells it, you're the one chasing him for no particular reason at all. Sorry, guys. The elf speaks up again. And what would this dangerous object be that Burnley is pursuing? You will have to start being more cooperative if you have any intention of completing this mission. I have doubted Burnley from the moment I met him. However, he was not the one who broke into my residence. He did not assault me, my staff, and bring great unrest to this city. That was your doing. When presented with the chance to peacefully surrender and explain yourselves, you opted to continue to assault us. If I had to choose between the two of you whom I trusted more, you would not be the one to win. I assure you, Burnley commands nothing, despite his aspirations. I am the one that commands this city. And if I so choose it, you shall remain in that cell until the ending of your days. That would stink. Now, I wish for an explanation as to how you have come here and what your purpose is here. Aside from Burnley, I wish to know of this dangerous magic you're pursuing. And you believe that Burnley is connected to this? Is there anyone that can corroborate your story? So be it. With a motion of his hand, the guards then come back, and the in essence a gag is then once again placed over your mouth. It doesn't actually like protrude into your mouth, it just holds your jaw shut. You are unclipped from the chair and your hands are manacled towards each other again, and you are once again led back down to your cell.
I'm imagining that when this thing's put on his face, he starts doing like a Kenny thing from South Park, where it's like.
So Pedwin is brought back down to his cell, and once again you can see the same individual in the robes is casting the same incantation that he did yesterday around this time. It is about 2 in the afternoon at this point. Just from the light you can tell coming down the staircase. You are once again put back inside the cell. The gag removed, your hands unmanacled, and the door is locked shut. Everyone is there now. However, the chest with everyone's belongings has been brought up and out of your sight. He just looks at you and just scowls. He gives you the stink eye, but the stinkiest stink eye that has ever been given to anybody.
Do you lift your leg when you do it?
Okay. At this point, another guard comes down to relieve the guard that is currently at this station.
The one who didn't give me food?
Nope, it's actually one you've never seen before. And as you come down there, they briefly have an exchange, and Burnley, Pedwin, and Mo. In fact, the only person that can't hear this is Flint, who's been oddly quiet this whole way. Then you hear a brief exchange amongst these two, saying, "Well, no, I'm not scheduled to be done my shift for at least another hour or so. You're early." And you kind of pressing your face up to the bars. Big Mo, you can barely see these two. Nobody else can. Actually, sorry, no, Burnley can as well.
Is it Holg? Please tell me it's Holg.
You can't see beyond
the voice?
The suits of armor. The voice, it's not Holg. But you do hear what sounds like a brief incantation, and then a cry of surprise, and then a dull thud, as all of a sudden one of the guards hits the ground. And you can hear the shuffling of keys. And as that happens, then the guard runs up to Big Mo's cage, and you can see, looking through the helmet, it's just a guard. You've never seen this person before, but they're holding the keys to the cell. And basically, that person then just unlocks the door and swings it open. It says, "Come on."
Okay. I'll stand up and stand at the at the gate, still inside the cell, just at the gate of the cell, waiting to see what happens.
All right, so then this guard runs over and unlocks Flint, and then runs over and goes to unlock Pedwin's cell. And as Pedwin, or as the door swings open, there is a brief, brilliant flash of blue light, and you can hear somewhere upstairs a chiming sound, a very loud chiming sound is going off. You then see, then the guard who's opened up your doors, looks up and says, "Shit!" Turns to all of you and says, "Look, I can't get you out of here now, but I cannot be caught. Just go along with it." And then at that point, you see them rush directly. Where's Burnley? Burnley's still in his cell.
When the alarm goes off, I'm gonna sit back down in my cell, like I was before the person came.
Okay. Pedwin, what are you doing? Your cell door's open. Okay, so the room that you're in now is essentially a series of holding cells. So it's lots of stone floors, and you guys are taking up 4 of the cells that are in this place. But there are other cells, yes, but they're all empty. Because there's nobody in them, so yes, they're still open. And the guard that unlocked you, they go up then to Burnley's door, and they start to put the key in. And they open up the key. They open up the cell door. At which point Burnley pushes past them and stands in front of the hallway, blocking your access to the stairwell. Blocking everyone's access to the stairwell. Okay, you cast Sleep at Burnley. Oh man, that is some balls roll right there. So you see Burnley for a moment begins to get drowsy, and then shakes his head and readies himself and says, "None of you are going anywhere." The guard that unlocked all the doors says, "Well, fuck this," and then darts into one of the cages outside of everybody's view, and then you don't see them again. Really? What's your passive perception, Pedwin? Yeah, nobody sees anything. Well, when you hit your next level, you can exchange it, can't you? Although I thought... Oh no, the prepared spells have to be ones you've learned already, so they'd have to be in your spellbook, right? Ah, okay. Okay, now I gotta check on this. So, sleep, I didn't think it has a cumulative effect. I thought it's that, like, it does that amount of reduction of health points. And right, okay, so, but if you've done it once and it didn't work, does that mean that you're just trying to hope that this next casting is going to get all of his health? Because it's not like there's any cumulative effect from the previous casting. Okay, cast away. You see this time he very nearly topples over, and then is able to kind of slap himself across the face and get himself back into like a focused mode. And no, it would appear that the spell was ineffective.
Does he realize what's going on, or is he just stupid?
At that point, he glares very angrily at Pedwin and is like, "Stop that!" At that point, a number of guards start rushing down the staircase, including the half-elven guy who's been kind of overseeing this whole operation. And many of them are armed, some with light crossbows, some with heavy crossbows. And the half-elf himself has a very ornate bow that he's pulled out of that large quiver on his back, and he's got 3 arrows notched in it. So there's... Hmm? Burnley at that point turns on a heel and says, "One of the guards let all of us out. I am preventing their escape." At which point, the half-elf just barks out to everyone, "I don't care who let you out. All of you, back in your cells, or I will put you down." You would have had to leave your cell to cast. So what do you do? All right. So you're back in your cell. Flint walks back into his cell. Big Mo never left his cell. And Burnley walks back into his cell looking for the guard that disappeared into his cell that is no longer there. Yeah, it probably would have. All right. At that point, the doors are shut. You hear the half-elven individual is talking about doubling up the guards on this room, and he wants patrols done of the city and the surrounding area. And you can definitely tell that this person is in a position of authority. Probably not the highest, but it's definitely up there. He has returned his 3 arrows and his rather ornate bow to the quiver that he brought them out from. And he leans in, he looks at Pedwin as the individual in robes comes back and recasts the same incantation, this time over everyone's cell, and says, "I don't like you. And I don't know what you're up to, but you will not present a threat to the people of this island. They have suffered enough." At that, he just turns and leaves. He doesn't say anything else to you. He stops off and mutters something quickly to Burnley that none of you are able to overhear, and then everybody leaves. On the way out, he stops at the landing in the stairs where he's about to disappear from your view. He says, "The trial will begin tomorrow. Then we will get to the bottom of this matter," and walks out. You can go ahead and make a perception check. You're looking around, and it basically seems the same as it was before. You know, again, there's not a whole lot going on. There's the exchanging of the guards, the occasional rat darts around, but other than that, you don't notice anything out of place. Nothing to indicate that there's an invisible person.
So we're all in here, and there's guards walking around.
You're all in the cells, and there's now 2 guards that are posted down there at all times, and a third that is patrolling the perimeter of the room.
I'm gonna speak up and give and call out to Burnley to see if he responds.
Rather, he's not happy about it, but he does walk up to the side of his bars. And says, "What do you want?"
So I ask him, So we told you why we were here, but I'm kind of curious why you're here.
I am here because the divine Talos has led me to this place.
Real descriptive.
He wishes to see it delivered from the miscreants that have guided this place to its suffering. I have a divine charge, and I will not rest until I see it done. Nor will I be hindered by fools with no vision. And at which point he glares directly at Pedwin as he says that.
So
And he looks back at you, Mo. I was led here by Talos. He guided me. He protected me as we crossed the storm, as is his domain. He saw to it that I arrived safely on these shores. I know not why he permitted your passage.
does that mean you're the bad guy?
He kind of chuckles at that particular statement. Good and bad are relative terms, don't you think?
Yes, but if we had to put a good or bad on you, we'd call you the bad guy, right?
I would call you the bad guy. You've been consistently trying to slow me down and stop my attempts at reaching the conclusion, the culmination of this charge I have been given.
Oh, Burnley, I can't tell if you're crazy or not. At that point, I stopped talking to him.
Just, he goes to his bed with a, fools, and then sits down and tries to while away some of the hours. Okay. Okay, I'm actually probably going to call it there. With everybody locked in cells, and there's some mysterious individual that tried to get you all out. And I don't think it was Talos. I'm just, I'm gonna throw that out there. Well, he probably would have let only Burnley out then, if that was the case. All right, so the way we will leave this is that you guys are awaiting the trial, which should happen tomorrow. And yeah, there's definitely a little bit more going on than it appears on the surface in this city. And there definitely appears to be something up with Burnley, because he is certainly very, very strong in his belief that he has a purpose here. And that's definitely what you've been able to gather from him. All right.
That was fun. Thanks, HPG, for
Hey, no
another
problem.
good session.
I'm glad you liked it. I gotta admit, this was I don't know, a whole bunch of this shit I just made up